Don't you want it? 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 You lose your little mind.
Oh, sorry. Welcome to the Deadlights podcast. I'm your host, Sam Johnson.
I'm Leslie, bringing you your weekly dose of horror.
Yeah.
Said it right.
Wow. Yell it out. And today we have Adam back again.
Yay.
You know him as the man of your dreams
and nightmares.
Yes.
And sometimes fantasies.
Ooh.
Whoa. We have a filmmaker who's notorious for a reason too, making these movies, and he throws a lot in there to give us, a lot to talk about.
He
And
does.
That's Alfred Hitchcock. And
So what movie are we watching?
what movie did we just watch? We just watched Psycho from
Psycho.
1960, directed by Alfred Hitchcock, written by Joseph Stefano.
Oh.
A Phoenix secretary embezzles $40,000 from her employer's client, goes on the run, and checks into a remote hotel run by a young man under the domination of his mother. I've seen this movie multiple times, and I think this was the first Alfred Hitchcock movie I'd ever seen in my life. But this was the first time both of you had seen it before.
Yeah.
I was very surprised that it was set in Phoenix, Arizona,
Which is cool.
for a majority of it.
Yeah.
Like our main character. And then they talked about Tucson as well, which was lovely. Tucson's a beautiful place.
Yeah. You guys feeling that hometown repping.
Yeah.
Anytime anybody mentions anything. Also Twilight, like she was around Scottsdale area. Bella.
I mean, it immediately, literally brings it close to home.
Mm-hmm.
You know the areas that they're talking about. It kind of, you can then put yourself literally in those areas in your mind. So that's kind of cool that you had that experience with this movie too. And also that it was your first time seeing such a notorious film. And also, were you surprised by the ending somewhat? Did you know that was coming? Did you see that coming?
I think I was surprised by the end. There was like the point in the movie that is iconic and you have seen 100 million times. The stabbing in the shower scene came way earlier than we were expecting. And then the movie wasn't about that first main character at all. And it was just like, oh, interesting. Then what is going on here? Yeah. And there was a mystery that by the end of it I had put together, but like only just before the other characters in the movie, because the movie just did so well in having just these levels of you don't get to see inside the house until like much later.
That was very satisfying walking into the house because you're just seeing it from afar and you're like, oh, okay. When are we going to get there? Because I didn't think we would. And yeah, like it was, I knew how long the movie was. So when the kill happened sooner, I was like, oh, there's more. What are we going to tell? So,
and I think especially for this time, that was a huge shock. I'm pretty sure how they advertised it. They pushed Janet Leigh, who plays Marion, the main character, in the first half, as the main character for the whole movie. So when audience saw her die 30 minutes into the movie, they were like, what?
Yeah.
Yeah, now what?
Who are we going to follow next?
Yeah,
and then you think it's about the money, and then there's this whole cleanup scene, and then he's like, he almost forgets the money, and you're like, oh, this is what it's going to be about. This is what's going to tie things. And then he goes back, grabs the thing, and then you're like, oh, he's going to see the money, and then he doesn't, and then the money goes away, and you're like, oh, it's not even about the money. And then it like the movie keeps changing it keeps changing what you expect it to be about while it's constantly just ramping up what it is about. It's fantastic.
And in the end, what we realize is nothing is as it seems. Just like this whole movie, nothing is as we thought it would be.
Yeah.
I think this actor who played Norman Bates here was incredible.
Yeah.
He was so...
He was pretty good.
So... The casting was really good because he's a very tall, very skinny man, and then the way they frame him in doorways, or like when you see him sit down in the kitchen and he's just way too big for the kitchen area, and he feels sort of like like unnatural just simply for being, you know, like super skinny, super tall.
Yeah.
And yet he's so young and so like kind of personable too. Just this, yeah, it's a wild.
Yeah, they did a great job. He also just like looks very like kiddish, but also he's an adult, you know, he's an adult. But yeah, he just like with his face and his poutiness, and there's a twinkle in his eyes that I like after a while when I said, "Oh, he's wearing mascara," is to make his eyes look younger and fresher and like cutesy in a way.
Yeah, he's very unnatural looking, and it works so well for this character because he can go between being innocent and dangerous very fast.
Yeah.
Because of his stature and because of his boyishness, he's riding that line. I guess from the top.
Make it drop.
Psycho.
Wow.
Really, really cool credit sequence.
Yeah.
Yes.
Very well. I mean, first of all, someone had to do that pretty much by hand. The lines coming in, obscuring the text and what we're seeing, and we can't really see what it says at first, but when we look closer, we realize what it is.
And then at the end, Alfred Hitchcock's name, I like the...
It jumbles up.
Yeah,
it becomes
jaggedy.
Yeah,
not good.
Oh,
and the music is great too.
Yeah.
Lots of
Iconic.
strings. Lots of strings, like short, sharp. And they continue to go back to that same score the entire movie. It's almost like this, every time it was on, like this point of anxiety and paranoia that was going on every time it would play. They were using that and building that a lot throughout this whole movie, for sure. And then we go to Arizona.
Phoenix, Arizona.
The cityscape. And we go into a window, which was a kind of interesting, I thought, for them to start this movie very voyeuristically. You're going into this one window, we're going into these people's lives.
And they're in bed.
And they're in bed, they just did it.
They
did it. And we get introduced, first of all, to Marion and Sam, who is their lovers. But because of... I hadn't got this until like maybe the last time I watched this movie, but they're having to meet and hook up in secret, not because either of them are married. Neither of them are married. But it's just like not good for them to have premarital sex, I guess. Like they're not married. It's not a good look that they're hooking up without being married. So that's why they have to sneak around.
And also, she is clearly an adult. She's like an older woman, and she's never been married, and he has recently been divorced.
Yeah, he's divorced. He's paying alimony. Yeah. He has debts.
He has debts because he knows that he's gonna have to like be paying off his lawyers and stuff. Her lawyers probably too, or something like that.
I mean, it's a very... They both are... Whether it's like silly or not in our modern culture or whatever, they're both concerned about hiding who they what they really want, which is to be with each other. Like they, in this scene, she wants to marry him.
Yeah.
But he's just like, it's not the right time. Like, I don't have enough money.
Yeah, each of them have this sort of like on-off sort of like interplay between, I really want to make this life with you, but I've also got all these worldly concerns that I have to think about, and they're like they can't be what they want to be because they have all the things that they have.
Yeah.
And I just think it's interesting that we start this movie off with both of them essentially hiding parts of themselves. You know, they're hiding in this hotel room again, hiding who they really are. But she's got to get back to work because I think she's on her lunch break.
Yeah. And she's like, I take 1 hour lunch breaks.
Come on, Sam, 1 hour.
1 hour. What are you doing?
Anyway, so she goes back to work, and this is when we're introduced to her boss, and I wrote down big text because he's got a cowboy hat. He's a big investor guy coming in, swanging a lot of money around. Literally, like he's going like this with a wad of cash in Marion's face. Just being gross. Clearly hitting on her and trying to flex on his money. But essentially what he's talking about is his daughter's getting married, and for their wedding present, he's going to buy them a house. for $40,000, which
I know.
Wow.
And she's
Pretty cool.
18 years old.
18.
18.
A little, that's getting a little
The
old.
daughter is.
Yeah.
Getting a little old.
Getting a little old.
Come on.
Yikes.
Come on, get on it.
Get her out of the house. Get her into
Some
a new
people
one.
here are going to be almost 30 years old.
Well, it
pretty
is interesting
soon.
that Marion is. So he's going into talking about his daughter getting married, and she's 18 years old. Marion has to be thinking about like that too, the pressures that probably are on her to get married, to start a family, because she's definitely older than 18. So she's hearing this man go on about how much money he has and he can buy his rich daughter.
He's buy unhappiness off.
Buy
Yeah.
unhappiness
That's what he
off.
says, yeah.
Exactly.
And then he asks her, "Are you unhappy?"
Mm-hmm. Ooh.
Mhm.
So the wheels for her, I think, start to turn there. Essentially, what happens at the end of the scene, though, is the boss asks her to drop it to the bank before she goes home.
Mm-mm.
It's a nice little reveal shot that we have. She's in her apartment. It looks like she's just changing, and then we do a nice tracking in shot of the cash. And you're like, oh, she didn't take it.
She didn't take it.
No,
take it to the
she didn't
bank.
take it. And she
And
keeps
then
looking at it.
Pan over, and we see her
Briefcase.
suitcase
Mhm.
open. She's packing up things, and you're right. She's going around the room packing up. She keeps looking back at that money.
She like looked at it like
Sitting
3 times.
There was a couple close-ups just of the money. It felt like the money was watching her. And she's off in her car.
Yeah.
And she's driving away. And a lot of these car scenes are actually really cool. Because it's a very just like front shot on all the people that are almost looking into the camera.
Mhm.
Like kind of as you zone out while driving. A lot of these scenes have that string in the background, really
Yes.
just building her paranoia. Because now she's on the run, essentially.
Yeah.
Building her paranoia of what's going on, what people are saying about her.
The voices that we hear, I thought were just kind of her catastrophizing. Is that how you say it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, yeah.
Yeah?
Yes.
Okay. And I thought that was those conversations of her maybe like putting scenarios together and being like, oh, they're like talking about her and stuff. But no, it seems like those are the conversations that actually happened.
Well,
As
I
she
had
was on
that
her.
question too.
Yeah.
Of like, is this just her thinking about this stuff in her head? And yes, later they do say that her employer saw her in her car, because that was where her paranoia starts.
Mhm.
She's at a stoplight and she sees her employer go across the street right in front of her car, shoot.
Mhm.
And they clearly see each other. And
Mhm.
that's
Yeah.
when her mind starts racing of, oh my God, what is he thinking? What are they talking about?
Mhm.
I still don't know if those conversations actually did happen,
Yeah.
like she thought of them. Maybe
That-
they did kind of happen.
The very end of the movie made me feel like that those were all in her head, simply because the end of the movie is the mother's voice in like
In Norman's
head.
Mhm.
You know, like and I think that's one of like the lessons from Hitchcock is juxtaposition, is like putting a thing next to another thing, and they start to mean like a new thing together. Like in this scene, I like thought of that because is this audio that Hitchcock has put in to be like, this is what's happening in her head, or this is happening in real life, and we're just putting it on top so you can see the two things at the same time. I don't know.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
That's because they can be viewed as two separate things.
Yeah.
We're just getting information at the same time,
Mhm.
or
Yeah.
it becomes a new thing because those things are next
Yeah.
to each
Yeah.
other.
There is one moment where she's driving and then she starts. It's later, but
It's
she
when-
like smiles.
Yeah,
As-
when the big tax guy is like, no one's gonna take money from me and
Yes.
get away with
Oh
it.
yeah,
and
something
she's
about
like,
and then something about flesh. He
yeah.
was he's like, oh, I will replace this money with flesh or something like that.
Yep.
So like
She
says-
and I kind of thought of that too, because that's the only one where she's smiling, and it's the big text guy
Mhm.
complaining, and she's almost getting like satisfaction from thinking about him being all pissed off
Mhm.
and being a gross asshole that she knows he is. These scenes are going on mixed with her being pulled over by the cop,
Mhm.
and that's like a big, again, start of this paranoia, which in the end that storyline really doesn't go anywhere.
No.
It's essentially the cop finds her passed out in her car on the side of the road, genuinely seems like he's concerned about, are you okay? Why did you pull over to go to sleep? Why didn't you just find a spot?
There's so many motels around here.
Yeah. And she just wants to get out of there. Immediately, she's like trying to get out.
She turns her car in to drive away.
Yeah.
And the cop's like, nope, turn your engine off. And it's like, damn.
Yeah,
This
shoot.
cop is handling this very coolly.
Yes.
Mhm.
Well, and it was interesting how they were shooting it too. When we first see the cop bent over looking in the car, every shot of him is a super extreme close up
Yeah.
of his face
Black
to make us
glasses.
feel uncomfortable.
Yeah,
Make
yeah,
us
yeah.
feel like she does probably. He's looking down.
Mhm.
He sees exactly what's going on. He's
He-
suspicious of me.
Hitchcock loves putting shit in your face, and you're like, back off, god damn.
It makes you uncomfortable.
Yeah, especially a big ass face.
Mm-hmm. And looking directly into
No,
the
I'm just
camera.
kidding.
I mean, they're pretty neutral questions. They're pretty innocent questions,
Mhm.
really. Just checking in.
Innocent,
Yeah.
but I am.
Innocent? Do you think I'm guilty of something?
Right.
Yeah.
I'm not guilty.
Yeah.
But to her, all these questions are super like cop buttons because
Yeah.
she knows there
Cop
is
button.
something going on.
Mhm.
You know, it's
Cop
like
button.
beep.
Mhm.
I mean, because there is something going on. There is something wrong. She is on the run from somebody. So
Nothing wrong.
to her, these questions have so much more weight than
Yeah.
"Are you okay?"
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
can't play it cool.
She can't play it cool, and certainly what she does next is very much not playing it cool.
Mhm.
She goes
Turns-
once she gets into California, she goes and trades in her car
Mhm.
for a California plated car.
And he notices her,
It's the same cop.
the same
pulls
cop?
up, yeah.
but like pulls like across the street, and he's just watching her.
Mm-hmm.
And then she notices that he's there, and I thought she was just gonna grab her stuff and take her car with her. But no,
She completes yeah.
yeah.
Really quickly, she's like, "I just want to trade it in, get out." The salesman even at one point is like it. He becomes suspicious when she doesn't haggle with him.
Yeah.
That's when his alarm bell starts
Yeah.
ringing. Like, no one's ever taken it at the face value before. What's going on here?
Yeah.
She's
And he
like, "Well,
second questions it again.
And
Yeah.
and he's even like, I can trust that this is your car and you have all the right paperwork for it. Like he's immediately like, there's something very wrong here. Everyone interacting with her knows that there's something super wrong.
he kept wanting her to just take the car for a spin, test it out, you
Mhm.
know. He even like says that some people just take it for like a whole day or like a day and a half.
have to think about it.
I mean, the first thing he says to her is, "I don't want any trouble."
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Immediately,
because he sees the cop too, she turns around.
The cop's not there yet.
Yeah.
No,
At that point.
there was a moment where they were walking, and she's like, "I'm gonna go to the bathroom." She like turns around, and then he turns around to see what she was looking at. He was just across the street.
yeah, but that was
Yeah.
after they started talking to each
Mhm.
other. But I don't think him saying, "I don't want trouble" was in reference to the cop.
Oh, I
think
bet it was.
I think he was just trying to be a funny salesman.
Yeah.
But again, we're putting it in her mind.
Mhm.
So everything becomes super amplified. Everything becomes more anxiety inducing because we know something's wrong and she knows something is wrong. I think because, like I said, these characters, that cop never comes back after this. She drives
Mhm.
off with their new car. We never
Yeah.
see those characters
Yeah.
again. We never get it. They never give information about her whereabouts again. They're not heard from, so nothing even comes of their characters. So, was the purpose of their characters just to make her even more paranoid?
I mean, when she's driving away from that, she hears in her head again. We don't know if it's the actual audio of the cop interacting with the salesman, or if it is in her head just her playing out the idea of probably what is going on over there. And so she that mounts her paranoia. So when she arrives at the Bates Motel, and then it starts raining, right?
Yes.
And
so
then she
it's
can't see
dangerous.
shit.
Doom.
And she's like, it's night again, which is when she fell asleep the first time on the side of the road. And you're like, this is a bad space. Things are bad. Then she sees a hotel and safe.
When we arrived at the Bates Motel, you're right. It feels very out in the middle of nowhere, very alone. And they also established that a couple times
Yeah.
where they were like, if you're here, that means you got lost,
Mhm.
essentially. And no one's even in the office when she shows up.
Yeah.
Mhm.
She's knocking on the door. It's raining. And then she looks up to the house that's on a hill behind the motel and
Betray.
sees a silhouette of a woman in the second story window just
Mhm.
go past the window. So she knows someone's here. But then for the
Rude.
first time we meet Norman Bates. He comes down out of the house and is like, "Oh shit, yeah, we got some vacancies. Come on in." Even though his mouth isn't moving when he's it's like
yeah.
clearly ADR.
Just, yeah.
So funny.
Clear ADR. I mean, it's a good take. I understand why they took that take, but his mouth's not moving.
His mouth's not moving.
I wrote
not
it
at
down
all.
too.
Yeah.
His mouth is not moving.
No way. And he lets her in, and really at the beginning he seems like a pretty welcoming, normal guy. But at least within this first scene, when we first meet Norman, he seems not
Normal.
normal,
Yeah.
not suspicious.
Yeah.
No.
He just seems lonely, and he's kind of weird, but he doesn't seem dangerous
He
at
He
seems
all.
seems
helpful,
a little,
even.
yeah,
Very helpful.
little nerdy, little
Well,
the nerdy.
he won't say
side.
bathroom.
Yeah.
Like if there's the and she's like, "Bathroom?"
Yeah.
It's like, yeah.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, like a little kiddish, little boyish,
Mhm.
harmless
Mhm.
seeming. Though.
Yes.
And he even offers her sandwiches and milk
Yeah.
as food, you know.
Yeah, he's like, I was about to, have my own dinner, milk and sandwiches.
Mhm. Yeah, it's very
I
like
was like, what are you gonna have, a PB&J?
Yeah.
it seemed like
It looked
oh,
like cheese on bread.
Cheese
it
on
did
bread.
look
Yeah.
cheese on bread. What the hell?
a very boy little kid
Mhm.
meal.
Like a kid. That's how a kid figures out how to feed themselves.
And he goes off to prepare the grand meal, and she has this scene where she's trying to figure out where to hide the money.
Mhm.
And she's going around the room thinking about different spots. Again, we're hearing this music. They're keeping us in these moments of decision making for a while.
Mhm.
I mean, this is. I don't think this is the first time that we're sitting with her while she's making a decision, but it forces us as the audience to sometimes go along with what the characters are trying to figure out. Like, she's going around the room clearly trying to figure out where to hide the money. At a certain point, I'm thinking, where would I hide the money?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're playing along with her.
Yeah.
It was very theatrical. That whole setup of the room was very much like something off of a theater
Mm-hmm.
stage.
Mhm.
And the way that they incorporated all of these like movements and like long shots of them just like doing what they're it was like a slice of life
Mhm.
type of thing.
Yes.
Mhm.
And she ends up hiding it in the newspaper. And so she hides it in there, and then she overhears Norman's
and
mother yelling at him. She's yelling at him about her.
Mhm.
About who is this woman and all. Like,
She's a stranger.
yeah, building up the mother character is a very suspicious, jealous kind of woman,
Mhm.
and they're talking to each other. I mean, Norman's responding to his mother, and Marion is just very clearly listening into this uncomfortable fight.
Mhm.
The acoustics are great. It's
Mhm.
echoing down the hill.
He opened the window.
True.
He opened the window so
Ooh.
that
He's like, it's
yeah.
stuffy in here.
Yeah. But now she can hear what's going on in the house.
Norman comes back down with the meal, and they meet outside her room. Another interesting moment, kind of kid-like.
Mhm.
She kind of acknowledges that she heard what they were yelling about, and he's kind of embarrassed of his mother. And
Motherhood.
I'm sorry, she gets like that.
I wish I could apologize for other people.
Yes,
Or something like that.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. But then she invites him into her room to eat, and then he has this moment of like, I think he's scared of his mother at that moment.
Mhm.
That's at least how I read it. Of if I go in there, she's gonna interpret that as
You're
me sleeping
her.
with this woman.
Mhm.
So he's like, no, let's go into my office, the business area,
Yeah.
where you can eat in there. For us as the audience that had never seen this before,
Yeah.
we're thinking she's watching from the house that's up there, which I love that this house is just looming up
Yeah.
above almost
Mhm.
this hotel this whole time. It feels like the house is kind of like the mother that is
Mhm.
just looking down on everything that's going on in the hotel and everything that Norman does. He's this very domineering looking facade and very dark. You rarely see it in the light.
Yeah.
It's just always there.
Yeah.
The very dark facade and the lit windows, like two eyes.
That's why I never thought that we were gonna go in there.
I'm glad that we didn't go in there
Until,
more.
in the
Yeah,
second
they really made you wait it out,
Mhm.
which was great. Dinner time in the parlor. He invites her back to the parlor behind the office, and it is full of his, as he calls, more than a hobby.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
His
Yeah.
taxidermy.
Yeah.
Birds everywhere.
Birds
Birds.
everywhere, covering the walls, taxidermy.
There's pictures of birds
Mhm.
as well in the hotel.
Birds are very interesting, and they even talk about being trapped in this scene at one point.
Mm-hmm.
Birds in cages, trapped in our own lives.
You eat like a bird.
You
Mm-hmm.
eat like, yeah, that's how like they start off this conversation. He
Yeah.
comments that she eats like a bird. And Bird, he also, when he starts talking about his taxidermy, he says that
I like stuffing
in
things.
life, that he does say, in life, birds look passive already.
Yeah.
So that's why they look the best as taxidermy, because they are now eternally passive.
Mm-hmm. And so you're looking at a woman now in a scene with a guy who likes taxidermying people, or not people, but birds.
Yes.
And you're like, oh,
After
when-
he just
yeah,
compared her to a bird.
just compared to a bird, calls birds passive, and like thinks that they look the best.
Dead.
Yeah, taxidermied, because he said I don't like beasts.
Yeah.
I don't like the way they look when they're stuffed, and it's there's this sort of like genderedness to his comments there.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the first time that the things he's saying feels ominous and feels like actually dangerous, even though it like starts really innocent. Oh, you eat like a bird.
But then also it is very much in the sense of like my actions of murder is tied to taxidermy, because he's like, it doesn't cost all that much.
Mm-hmm.
People think that it does because of all the like the sewing and this and that, but the chemicals are the ones that are expensive, which is like cleaning up blood and cleaning the sheets and probably replacing things often.
At a certain point, after talking about his taxidermy, it transitions into her asking him about his mother.
Yeah.
And at first she's really, again, almost like apologizing for her to him, like, don't you ever like think about leaving and
Do you
having
have
your
any
own life?
friends?
Yeah, kind of just like almost like looking out for his best interests. What about your life? Are you just taking care of your mother? He comes back with like a boy's best friend is his mother, and that it really ends up like pissing him off that she would even question his devotion to his mother.
Especially when she suggests maybe putting his mother in a home.
Yes,
Yeah.
because she was like, she kind of implying this like, hey, perhaps your mom is abusing you. Maybe you should get away. And if you can't get away because you're having to take care of her, why don't you just place her? And he's like, in a psych ward.
A nut house.
Everybody calls those places a place
Somewhere, or
Yeah.
a place somewhere. Put her somewhere. And then like the reasoning he gives, I think the most human reasoning he gives through that is even though she yells at me and all that kind of stuff, we all get mad sometimes. But he says, I don't hate her. Like, I hate the illness.
Yes.
And I hate what it's done to her.
What she's become.
And that's like a powerful statement to make. And it's also, she dead, and he hates the fact that she's mummified, and he also hates what he did to her to make her sick.
Well, in the end, he's talking about himself. Too.
Yes, yeah, and he
Because
hates that in himself,
Yes.
like having both of those things.
He hates that side of him, therefore he hates his own illness.
Mhm.
And yes, this whole time he's just talking about himself.
Mhm.
Right after he says, I don't hate her, I hate what she's become. And then he mentions something about like she's harmless, like one of those stuffed birds.
Yes. He then compares her to one of his stuffed birds.
Yeah,
which is interesting because, yes, she is now.
Yeah.
Yes, she is. She's dead.
Yeah.
She's not doing anything. She just sits there. During this whole scene, I love some of these shots with him in the foreground, kind of going in and out of like madness and being calm and collective with these like birds stuffed in the back.
Yeah.
There's that one shot of the owl, like just almost
Looming,
it's frozen.
just
It's frozen in almost a swooping down action, and he's just like talking about his mother and her illness. And,
it's
how she
swooping
went.
because that's what he's freaking doing or is gonna do to this poor girl.
And when he's like asking her about where she's going, what she's running from, he's so relaxed. He's like playing with the thing on the shelf, and he's like very open. And then immediately when she asks if he has friends, well, mother is a boy's best friend.
Yeah, I noticed at least
Mother is my best
at least for
friend.
his blocking, he kept going from that laid back and then leaning forward when he would sometimes get like intense about something, and then going back and being, he's like very like, this is, you're right, this first scene where we start to see like these two sides, he's swinging back and forth between pissed off and cool and calm, fast. He says, I think something like, we're all in traps. We all have our own traps in our lives. And
private traps.
And she then comes back with saying, sometimes we deliberately step into those traps. She's clearly talking about herself. How she took that opportunity to look out for herself and probably made a mess, but she wants to go back and clean it up now. Somehow somehow in that conversation it clicks to her that maybe she doesn't want to be like Norman Bates, running from something that you really want, or running from anything really. Doesn't want to live like that. So she's got to go back and make things okay so she can have the life that she already has, you know, instead of stealing $40,000, I guess. It's
wonderful that two people in a room are having a conversation about birds, about traps, and about like his mother, and they both have their own subtext that they both basically understand most of. And so like they're all talking in metaphors, and the whole conversation is in metaphors, and yet they both come through that conversation like with a kind of different idea of their own reality. And that's wonderful because that's how we talk to each other a lot of times, where people will talk about a thing as a metaphor, and you will understand what the metaphor is about. And that's great, like great writing. And I don't remember movies from before this, you know, being like that. And maybe I just haven't watched a lot of movies from pre-1960. But like this feels very present.
And she kind of ends the scene being like, you know what, I'm going to go back and return the money and hope that I can save the life that I've built so far. And she goes off to her room. But then, oh man, we got to turn the creepiness factor up a little more.
He went towards the wall.
Yeah.
And just listened to her.
I forgot if he actually had the hole or not. I thought, oh, is he just going to listen? No.
He's got a hole.
Takes the painting off. Yeah. Hole into cabin 1. She's changing. Creepy. Immediately creepy.
No bueno.
That kind of changes the character for sure at this point. But then he covers it up after like a second, and then goes up back to his house.
Angrily. I realized that his physicality had changed. He was going up the stairs like 3 at a time, and he's like rushing up there.
Well, because he did just indulge in being attracted to her, which his other personality side is definitely pissed off about.
Absolutely.
So we probably, you're right, saw him switch.
I think it was that process.
I think I'm gonna get to this point later, but I think that was still Norman Bates running up those stairs, because he's doing the 3 at a time thing, because that's a childish thing to do, and adults don't run up, like don't do that. They go, they take their steps.
What I'm thinking is that he's going up the stairs as Norman, but he's hearing his mother. So then there's like that transition that's gonna occur as soon as he steps into the house.
She's already yelling
to yell,
at him.
yell at him.
Yep, because he knows what he did was bad boy.
Mhm.
Bad boy.
Bad boy.
Yikes.
And this is the scene. Well, first of all, she's doing math to figure out how much money she has left after spending for the car. Or
$700. You can't.
It's like mental math, isn't it?
40,000 minus 700.
No, but then it was also like probably the room that she had to.
Maybe some gas.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yes.
She figures it out. She figures out how much she has left, and then she rips up the paper and throws it in the toilet and
In the
flushes
toilet.
it. And then we get, of course, the most famous scene in the movie, one of the most famous scenes in movie history,
Mhm.
the shower scene.
Mhm.
You know, and some of the shots, you know, we're getting the water running out of the faucet. We're getting just the knife coming up. We're getting like a blurry image of her face. It's all very
Like the knife just like not piercing through, but just
But
like,
yeah, just
almost just like against
going
skin.
yeah,
against
it's
the
very
skin.
stylized. Too,
But it's also
like,
very fast, so
Mhm.
you don't even have a chance to wonder, wait, was it just sitting there or was it actually, because
Mhm.
the shots are moving through so fast that everything feels frantic, but at the same time you do know what's going on.
Mhm.
It's like this controlled chaos that the editor was able to find within this edit with so many freaking cuts. How it ends too is like kind of artsy in that way,
Yeah.
where after the mother comes in, is done stabbing her, walks out, she's left like kind of like sliding down the wall, gripping for the shower curtain, and then falls off like out of the tub, and her face is just like against
On
the
the-
floor,
Mhm.
and like very uncomfortable looking.
Mhm.
And then we follow the water with blood going down the drain, and as we zoom into the drain, we transition and are starting to zoom out of her
eye.
dead
Eyeball.
eye.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So her life goes down the drain, and now she's lifeless on the floor. And then it's this wonderful like with the eye, and then it rotates to be with gravity, with like just the floor, and she is perfectly still,
Yeah.
and her
Frozen.
eye is right down the camera, and she's looking right at you.
Chilling.
But she's dead, and like if you look really hard, you can see that thing go. Like
of
her
course.
eye
Mhm.
move just a little bit.
I
You're
saw
like,
We had a
I
big
know.
screen too.
yeah,
Yeah.
big old screen.
Yeah.
She's alive. She's acting. I swear she's acting, guys.
Well,
Um,
people needed to hear that because that scene terrified many people.
That's what I hear.
And I think too, with coming into this movie thinking that this is going to be our main character, we're going to be with her the whole time. It's almost like Alfred Hitchcock is looking the audience in the face, being like, "You thought it was going to be about this?
Mm-hmm.
No, 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 no."
You're coming out of her eyeball and leaves you dead with her. You're like, I don't know what's gonna happen.
I think
this.
the movie hasn't changed. I know we're watching the same movie, but the question of the movie, which is how am I going to get away with this, is the same question.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone like it's just a new person
Yeah.
working it. You know,
Yeah.
how am I going to get away with this? And now it's escalated so far that the main character has died. So how's the next person going to keep getting away with this event? And so I don't like, even though it's this dramatic like rise and fall, it's also like, oh, but it keeps rising now.
Marion's dead eye. Then we go to we like pan and track to the newspaper with the money inside of it. And then we track to the open window where we see the house looming up again. And we just hear Norman say, did you write it down?
Yeah, mother. Oh God, mother. Blood.
Blood!
Blood.
Oh, blood! And he comes storming out of the house and finds the crime scene, finds Marion dead, and he has a quick moment, I think, of being like, holy shit, what did she just do?
Yeah.
But it's like he finds her and he steps outside for just a second.
Yeah.
Goes into the office, got a mop. Got a mop
Yeah.
and bucket already.
It's like
He's got to protect mom.
yeah, she's done this before. It
Do
seems
it.
like
Does what it got to do.
yeah.
It seemed, when he starts to do it, it seemed a little too rehearsed.
He just knew what
Yeah,
to do.
he closes the window,
Yeah.
closes the door, then turns off the lights.
It's not like he was good at doing it,
Mm-mm.
even though he was. But it was like there was never any point of like, what do I do next? What do I do next? It was like,
Opens the trunk of her car, wraps up her body in the shower curtain, puts her in there, and then throws her suitcase in there.
Mhm.
And final look of the room, last looks, she does a little
Track.
newspaper.
Newspaper.
Yeah.
Oop, just gotta clean that up real
Yeah,
quick.
Grab that
Doesn't
newspaper.
think about it too much.
Yeah.
Grabs it, throws it in the trunk
Throws
too.
it in the trunk.
That kind of just shows this is not what this movie's about.
Yeah,
No.
I like that point surprised me with the ease he throws it into the trunk. I was like, oh, never mind. Bye, money. This
Yeah.
isn't about the money.
Because I thought at some point he was just going to be like, oh, there's something in here.
Cool.
Yeah.
Oh, money.
Oh, and then I was like, oh shit, he has to now hide the fact that he's killed someone and he has all this money and he now has the money to escape his mom or something like that. He's going to change his life, but also has to hide this like murder and like, I don't know.
This money is going to
That-
be the curse of everybody.
That moment of him just like almost nonchalantly throwing it in the trunk, to me, just completely like he's closing the trunk. It
Yeah.
closes the book on Marion's story
Yeah.
in this movie. I'm like, I have that moment of like, oh shit, like that was the last piece of this movie that was about her.
Yeah.
But he's just throwing it away too. Shit, this movie's not about her at all.
No.
This movie is now she's completely erased. She didn't even write her name, her real name in the ledger.
Mhm.
So it just feels very much like she was never there.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And then he has this nice little swamp / sinkhole
Yeah.
in the back of this motel
Yeah.
that just like
It's
unlimited
so funny.
cars can fit in there.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
Mhm.
Yeah. There's
Uh,
about 5 of them in there, probably.
At least, I'm sure. I mean, it's an interesting moment too, where he pushes the car in and it's going down, sinking down, and with the like last top left sticking out of the water, it stops for a second,
Mhm.
and it stops enough for him to like be like,
What do I do?
"Gotta make a big sticker or something
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that."
I was like,
Yeah.
do you swim out there, jump on
Yeah,
it? What's
I was picturing him just like jumping on it. Whee! And then he keeps eating stuff. Like he's getting things from his pocket and just eating it.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a nervous habit.
Yeah, it looks like a very nervous habit.
But luckily, car keeps going down. We are back with Sam in his hardware shop. Layla, that's her name. Layla, Marion's sister, shows up to the
That
hardware
is
shop.
so funny because that is Adam's nickname for me.
Mm-hmm.
Layla?
Yeah,
Layla.
on his on his phone,
Oh, okay.
Layla.
Do you ever look at that and you're like, who's Layla?
Yes.
Who the
I
fuck
was
is
like,
that?
Oh, it's just me.
I don't know what you're talking about. Your contact name is your name. I don't know.
Now you changed it now.
I don't know. No, it's just
No.
Leslie. See, Leslie. I don't know what you're talking
It used to
about.
be Layla.
Who's Layla
It was Layla.
then? Psycho.
Liar.
Layla shows up and is very concerned about Marion because she's been gone for a week. Sam hasn't heard from her.
Mm-hmm.
And while they're talking, we get this looming dude in the background who's just looking through the window at first, and then walks in and just walks into the camera's
Mhm.
lens like
Mhm.
super close. And
That's why I was like, yikes, too close.
There's the camera. So the camera inserts itself in people's lives, but there are certain people in this movie that insert themselves into the camera.
Which the detective did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's another person that inserts himself into people's lives,
Yeah.
just like we are. The audience.
He the detective?
Mm-hmm. We're the detective.
Arbogast. Arbogast was his name.
Yeah.
He's a PI. I kept writing on PI after that because Arbogast is
Mhm.
way too much to
Mhm.
write down.
Mhm.
Arbogast.
He's a private
What a name.
investigator. It's unclear who hired him, but clearly he's after the money. He was hired to find the $40,000, probably from the big Texas guy or
Yes.
the boss,
Mhm.
but probably the big Texas guy.
That's what I got.
There's suspicion towards Sam
Mhm.
that this was their plan to steal the money together.
Even the sister thinks that
Mhm.
because the detective turns around and he was like, "Why are you here? Why are you thinking that she came to Sam?"
For the sister, she doesn't care if she ran off with the money. She even says, I want her to tell me that.
Yeah.
I just want her to tell me that, meaning I just want to know where she is.
Mhm.
Yeah.
She hasn't told me anything, which is very unlike her.
The next scene is a montage, right?
Yes.
Of the detective going to every single. I thought this detective was an actually good detective.
He was.
Because,
First time in a horror movie.
Yeah.
for sure.
I know.
Yeah.
Absolutely. He was
And
doing,
what
like,
happens?
I thought that it was pretty smart of him to go to every single hotel and motel or whatever because he knew she was coming to Sam.
Like, you're right. Like, he genuinely wants to figure out.
Mhm.
He wants to do his job and
Mhm.
figure out what happened to her and the money, and he's, committing to it.
Yeah.
And it brings him in the end to the Bates Motel.
Mhm.
Almost couldn't find this place. This is the first place that I felt like was trying to hide from the world. I think he says when he
Yeah.
shows up.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Oh.
We don't have anything.
Yeah.
No,
turn
no
the light
secrets
on.
here.
Yeah.
Mother.
Again, Norman is at the beginning seemingly pretty helpful.
Mm-hmm.
He's giving away too much information,
Well-
in my opinion. I was like, Norman, hold it back.
Over this scene, he becomes very sus.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
like contradicting himself,
Mhm.
going back on what he's saying. Oh, yeah, she was here. Oh, we haven't had people in weeks.
And the investigator, nothing gets past him, and he immediately
Because he's
calls
a
out.
good freaking investigator.
He's great at it. Yeah. Immediately calls out the problems
Well,
there.
like
yeah.
he just kept. He knew what questions
Mhm.
to ask as soon as he like heard something that was off. He was like, "Oh, explain that a little bit more."
Mhm.
And he's like, "What?" And he was just like digging himself in a hole. I wrote "liar, liar, pants on fire,"
Yeah.
and then yikes, dig a hole.
Yeah, because every time that he was fast, he was questioning him quickly and trying to catch him off guard.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And he was doing a very good
It
job
was
of making Norman kind of trip up on his own words. Oh, I thought you said that there hadn't been people in here
Yeah.
in weeks, but a couple said this last week.
Yeah.
Oh, no, that's not what I meant. Like, well, and he would backtrack.
Mm-hmm.
It was very obvious, and even when he was catching him in these lies, he was being very cool about it. The
Very
PI was
cool.
like,
Very
"Oh, okay, cool.
smiling and being
Yeah.
like, "Oh yeah, yeah."
Oh, so yeah, you did. Oh, so what were they saying?"
Mhm.
Well, because all he wanted, so it was a good tactic because he knew what kind of person immediately Norman was. He was already offering way too much information right from the start. So he's having him just keep talking.
Mhm.
So he wants him to keep talking, and that kind of cool, friendly persona is going to allow him to keep breaking, a lot, like
He's just he's just giving him the shovel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He just keeps just giving him the
Yeah,
shovel
yeah.
and just digs
Keep
himself
going.
deeper, deeper, deeper.
Yeah, and I was
was uncomfortable.
expecting. I mean, the thing about Norman is because he's so bad at lying. I'm like, well, he can't. He's just a kid. He's so bad at lying. He's not like he doesn't know how to like hide these secrets and stuff. So knowing that he like has done it multiple times, you'd think he'd be better at keeping the secret. Like just as efficient as he was at cleaning up a body, you'd think he'd be better at not, like revealing any information about the person
Or
who
just keeping
disappeared.
just keeping it cool.
Yeah, just
at
keeping
least.
it cool.
Yeah.
He couldn't.
Well, we later come across a person who swears by Norman. No, he's such a nice guy, blah blah
Mhm.
blah. And I think it's people like them who are like, not to call them simple-minded, but just like simple folk is just people.
They're taking a lot of
They're-
things at face value. Yes.
Exactly.
Mhm.
And this detective, their job is to see past that.
Mhm.
You just absolutely think that everybody is guilty.
Read
Ends up
between the
proving-
lines.
yeah.
Yeah. And
So he's never come across somebody who was quick and able to see past him.
Mhm. Mhm.
this might be the first time that someone's come around asking questions.
Yeah.
Because it's a hard spot to find.
Mm-hmm.
It's not unless you're looking for it, you're not going to be able to find the Bates Motel.
The only people who arrive there are going to be lost to begin with,
Mhm.
and if they're lost and they stay, then they want to stay lost in a certain sense, and
It's true.
so they're very easy people to pick off.
Yes.
Yeesh.
Yes. And this scene kind of gets to a point where Norman mentions something about his mother.
Mhm.
And then that clicks in the PI's mind of, oh, maybe your mother saw her.
Mhm.
Can we go talk to her? And that's when things really just shut down.
Oh, well, real quick, the when he's looking at the book, right? When the PI is looking at the ledger book, and Norman's like, "No, I don't. Oh, is that her?" And he like turns his
yeah.
head,
Oh my
and you just have
God.
this shot of like the underneath of his neck, like he's exposing his neck, like he's like, a sign of weakness. But it's also a crazy shot that you never see in movies of like someone's just neck and head and just like being
Yes.
pulled in such a way, a wild looking.
Yeah, because he cranes into that. It starts off normal, but then he cranes into that very uncomfortable looking position.
Yeah.
Like he's like turning into
It was
a monster.
Ooh. Okay. Yeah, the whole time I just wrote that's a weird angle.
It was a weird shot, but it very much like, paints him, because a lot of the images in this paint him sort of as a monster. He's too big at the table, and he's this very narrow figure in a like a lit doorway. Even though he fills it vertically, he doesn't quite fill it horizontally.
Because the only other person that cranes their neck like that, and we get something very, very much in that sense. Because sometimes it's sensual, it's very like feminine and just like romantic. It's exposed. Which was our main character in the beginning when she was like trying to get ready,
and then it's
to
inverted
go to work.
at her end when she's on the floor. It's like, it's not that she's exposed, but she's doing the same craning, but like forced against
And
the
then
ground.
he's doing that craning of also just shadows and
wild.
It's very
shot.
unnatural.
Very unnatural.
Both of those
It
just
was
seem
very
very uncomfortable and unnatural.
Yeah, for a
Yeah.
scene that was just like, oh, will the detective find this information? There's this like shot that's like, oh, whoa, weird, like really weird for a moment.
so close, so close.
You don't see that much.
Yeah.
You don't see that much.
It was great.
I
Yeah,
saw
love
too
that shot.
much.
I love that shot.
Weird.
And for it to come at a moment where the detective is learning information that could possibly lead to his and his mother's downfall.
The detective takes out the little piece of paper. Is like, yeah, that's her handwriting right there, and it's just like, what? Like, what? Yeah, it's suddenly, oh no,
Because we as the audience know that he did this, and we know that information will help the detective, and you then feel his anxiety of, holy shit, is he gonna figure out this piece of information?
Because we were both like, or everyone was like, oh, she wrote a fake name down. There's no way that they could trace her. And then the detective pulls out, I got a piece of her handwriting here, and you're like,
And with these shots, like, I thought that we were gonna go back and see, the handwriting being matched.
Yeah.
But instead, we stick to the same, like, frame,
Yeah.
and we see him just craning. And I was just like, oh, we're staying here, and we're getting this angle.
Wow.
And we don't go back.
No.
We don't see that because we don't need to, because we already know.
We know.
Yeah.
He figured it out.
Yeah.
Norman kind of pushes him out at that point.
Yeah.
He's like,
You're gonna have to go.
you're going to have to go. He's like, well, if I would want to check the rooms, I'm assuming I need a warrant. And he's like, yep.
Sure. Yep.
Yeah, sure.
He's
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
"Oh,
And even at the end of
that's
this,
too bad."
even at the end of the scene where the PI leaves, he doesn't even necessarily suspect Norman of anything. He wants to talk to the mother.
I think there was also a question among the scene where he's making him stumble in his words, that the detective thinks that he's hiding her. That, like, hiding her in the sense of, like, keeping her identity and, like, keep her safe.
Yeah, keep her in a room.
Because, like,
protecting.
he probably thought she was cute, and then she, he doesn't know what kind of person she is besides a thief. So it seems like she is kind of seducing people in order to, like,
Or bribing them.
bribing
I mean,
them
he has-
with cash.
Yeah.
Which is not what she was doing at all. She was not keeping herself cool at all.
No.
But
No.
yeah, like, so I think as far as he knows, she's alive.
Yes, true. There's not much suspicion that she is dead yet.
Yeah.
Only that she's still missing.
Came through. Yeah.
She came through here, yeah. And the PI wants to talk to the mother because maybe she was the last person that saw Marion. He goes and calls Layla and kind of just breaks down all the information that he just got. Went to the Bates Motel, talked to the owner. She learned that she came through there under a fake name, and he's really suspicious of the mother, and he wants to go talk to her, and he kind of like puts this timestamp. He's like, I'm gonna go back to the hotel real quick, try to talk to the mother, and I'll be back in an hour or less. He says to Layla. The PI comes back to the hotel and goes up to the house. Come on in. Let's go inside.
Yes, I put excuse me.
And he immediately goes upstairs. He doesn't really look around too much downstairs. He just, because I think he assumes Sam has told him that he saw a woman in the window or whatever. Not Sam. Anyway, whatever.
I think he saw the mother in the window.
Okay.
Yeah.
He saw a silhouette up there too.
Yeah.
Yes, you're right.
Because he's like, oh, who's that in the house? And Norman's like, oh, there's no one up there. And he's like, well, I just saw someone in the window. Oh, that was my mother.
Yes.
Like, oh shit. Yeah, she's up there.
Yeah.
Yeah. She's sick.
You have a mother. There's a person. So maybe she saw something. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so he goes upstairs because he wants to question her, and we have this like up above shot of him at the top of the stairs, and then the door to the mother's room like kind of creaks open and the light spills out, and then we return to that above shot, and you just see the mother come out and just more stabbing to the PI now, who crazy shot of him like going backwards down the stairs where it looks very unnatural. It doesn't look like he's even stepping. He's just like floating down the stairs. And falls at the bottom, and just the mother just comes up and continues to just Actually, we don't even see her stabbing him. We just see the knife go up once, come back down, fade to black. Then we cut back to Sam and Layla waiting for him to come back, and she's
Or to call back.
She's immediately suspicious. Why isn't he back yet? What the?
He
She's
said an
always
hour and a half.
she's always like, I want to go. We got to figure out where she is. Why hasn't he come back? And Sam's kind of like, oh, I'm sure he like got a lead or something. He's probably fine. And she's like, no, he would have called. And she sends him to go check out the hotel. Very quick scene of Sam at the Bates Motel, knocking on the office door, looking up at the house. I think he sees the silhouette of the mother in the window, and he's just yelling for him. He's just yelling for the PI. And there's a quick shot of Norman standing by the swamp.
Yep.
Presumably had just pushed the detective's car in there.
This guy is a psycho.
Oh, they said it.
Wait.
So
Cut to black.
Sam returns to his hardware store. Yes, I returned to my hardware store and tell
He's
Layla,
alive. Woo.
oh, thank God.
Oh
Movie's over.
Yep.
Nope, couldn't find him there. And he's like, let's go wake up the deputy in the middle of the night, see what he can do.
Yeah.
And they do that.
Yeah.
He's like, him and the deputy and his wife are like in their robes coming out of bed. And Sam and Layla would just lay out the entire movie so far. They're like, she stole this money, she went to this, we sent a PI. They literally just break down the entire movie.
And they're like, well, why don't we call Norman? Let's just call him.
Let's just call him,
now.
see what's up.
At this time of night?
But he calls him anyway, very quickly questions him. You see a PI? Uh-huh. Oh, no, don't worry, Norman. Bye-bye, sweet boy. And
Kisses.
sweet dreams.
He's like, hey, Norman Bates, this is the deputy sheriff. Oh, how are you doing? Oh, I'm doing well, thank you.
Doing good.
He's
Yeah.
like,
And he's convinced.
he's like, yeah.
He's convinced. Oh no, he saw your private investigator and sent him on his way, and haven't seen him since. And then this is kind of when we get the reveal that, oh, you say that you saw the silhouette of his mother. Well, his mother's been dead for 10 years. Bum, bum, bum.
Norma's mom has been dead. She poisoned lover, then herself.
Yeah, it was a
Yeah.
murder-suicide.
Murder-suicide.
Murder-suicide. She poisoned her lover, and then she took a taste for herself. And that poor boy discovered them.
Yep.
I don't feel comfortable about this at all. Let's go check it out ourselves. They make their own plan to pose as husband and wife, and rent a room and search every single one of those rooms until they find something. And so they show up to the Bates Motel and do exactly that. They get a room, and
Norman is looking from the mother's window.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a little thing. The only person we've
Oh.
seen in that window so far has been Mother, but it was Norman looking through.
Looks down,
Yeah.
and checks them in. And I mean, we've come to the point in the movie where everything feels tense because everyone in the scene now has their own stakes and own information that they're trying to keep from each other. So even with him just checking them in, it feels tense. It feels very tense because all these characters are looking for information at the same time, or trying to keep information.
Yeah.
And so they go to their room, and pretty much decide that they need to go start to search the...
Yeah.
She's just like, this whole time, the sister is just like, I got a bad feeling about this place. All roads have led here. I have a really bad feeling about what happened here. We gotta search. And they start with room 1, which... perfect, because that's the room that she was...
They did know. They did know that was the room she was in because that's what the private investigator had figured out. Because he had seen her sign in. He knew that she was in room 1.
Okay.
The sign-in thing. But he's like, yeah, she was staying in room 1 under a different name. And he said she left in the morning. But yeah, they start with room 1. And it was weird. I think the weird part was it was open.
Yeah.
It was unlocked.
Yeah.
She somebody opened it for briefly to make sure it was open.
It was open. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they search the room, and they end up finding a little scrap of paper with her...
Yeah.
Oops, she didn't get it all in the toilet.
40,000. That's the number.
That's the number. She must have been here. And then they come up with a plan because they know the mother is sus because the private detective said something about suspecting the mother. Suspecting the mother. And so Sam is going to distract Norman in the office while she goes and searches the
Didn't
house.
they agree that he was going to search the house and she was going to distract Norman? And then immediately Sam runs into Norman so they have to reverse roles.
Reverse roles.
Yeah. And so Sam's distracting Norman during that, and then she goes into the house.
I thought that's what... Yeah.
So there's a quick reversal of roles that they had to suddenly take
because
on.
then he does this thing.
Yeah.
He's like...
Go.
Yeah. I got this. Which is probably good for them because if she would have just tried to distract Norman... The mother side he probably would have been attracted to her. The mother side would have switched in.
Because the sisters looked very similar.
Yeah.
They did a good job wig-wise and
made
makeup.
them both blonde and for sure. So Sam is the one that ends up going to distract Norman while Layla goes up to the house. And I love that shot. This is another shot that always sticks with me. As she's approaching the house, the camera is moving almost like handheld towards the house too, but it feels like the house is closing in on us. It's getting bigger. You're becoming more underneath it. It's just becoming more and more overpowering her. And this is one of the first times that we really go and explore the house. Right in this last scene of the movie, really feeling like we are going into this house and learning the truth about this house and what's been going on there.
Yeah.
Because she goes in, she immediately again goes upstairs, and we go into the mother's room for the first time. Seemingly like a mother's room.
It doesn't
Old
look...
person deco.
Yeah. It doesn't look like it's been used or touched. Like, we see that there's a soap on the hand sink area, untouched.
Yeah, perfectly square.
There's an indent in the bed.
Yeah.
Which is creepy.
Yeah.
Someone's been laying there for a while.
Yeah.
That spring ain't bouncing back anymore. And then she goes downstairs. No, she goes across the hall to, I think it's Norman's room.
Yeah.
But it's like a very little kid room. Toys, dolls.
There's a little picture panel on the edge of the room, which is like a circus. And then there's toys that haven't been touched for a while.
And a little bed that clearly is being used because it's kind of messed up.
Yeah.
So he's been sleeping in his little kid room this whole time.
Yeah.
And then at the same time that she's exploring the room, we're cutting back to Sam and Norman, who this conversation is getting heated.
Mm-hmm.
It's getting more intense.
Yeah.
He's asking about the mother. He's asking about wanting to escape. He suspects that he took the money.
Yeah.
So he's like, now that you got the means to get out of here, what do you think you're going to do with it? He's like, I don't know what you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
What are you talking about? It's just getting more and more.
And Sam feels bigger than Norman in this scene. He feels like, like he can overpower Norman. He's really the aggressor here. Norman can't do anything in this situation. And he's on the ropes. What's Norman going to do? And then, like, once it builds to a head, Norman just takes they start fighting, and it's like that old, like, film fighting where they're, like, holding each other's wrists. And then Norman, like, has time to look down at an object, grab it, dunk, and pass out immediately.
Yeah. Layla sees him coming up, quickly runs to the wine cellar just to hide. And Norman comes in and immediately goes upstairs. Mm-hmm. He goes up to the mother's room and kind of disappears. But then Layla goes down into the wine cellar because I think she sees the door is like slightly open or something. I don't know why she suspects.
Yeah, something. She looks at the door.
Yeah.
And thinks. So something about it. She's like, I haven't looked in there.
Yeah, I think that's what she was thinking. She's like, I haven't looked.
And she goes down and opens the wine cellar door, and Mother is sitting in the corner, just, sitting there. And she's like, Mrs. Bates, there you are. Are you okay? Just going towards, and then, are you okay? Dead body. Taxidermied body. And she, like, reacts, and it sends the light just swinging.
Yes.
In the shadows, just going crazy everywhere because this central light is just spinning. And then it's the reveal. Who's actually Mommy?
With the wig.
With the wig
and the purple dress.
Yeah, the moo-moo.
Robe.
Yeah.
So funny.
Yeah, and
he's coming towards her. Ready
like
to
a monster.
kill her. Yeah.
Big monster.
Big,
and then
open
Sam
mouth.
comes over and just kind of starts undressing her. And he was like,
Yeah, he's like frozen there. As his wig falls off.
Yeah.
And his dress comes open, and oh my God, it's Norman!
Oh, I didn't know.
Oh, I didn't know. Yeah, I can just imagine Alfred Hitchcock just being like, yeah, don't really move that much, just make sure the wig and the dress comes off. So we get that image. Just go for the wig falling off.
Wig fall off.
We need
Thing
it.
opens. We need to see his costume. We need to see his face. We need to see the knife. We need him to mirror the skeleton.
Yep.
Great. Perfect.
Yeah, and we got it.
Yeah.
We know it. With all that, no talking, we immediately understand what has been going on through this whole movie now.
But even though we just realized in this moment, what a reveal, we now get to have a lecture.
Yes.
From Officer Krupke from West Side Story.
He sits everyone down. Yeah.
This is what happened in the movie.
And it's like, it's a character we have not seen
Nope.
at all.
It's like if your friend, you watch this movie with your friend, you're like, oh, that was a really good movie. And someone's like, oh, I haven't seen this movie. And then your friend's like, oh, you haven't seen this movie? Well, this is what happened. So what happened was when he was like younger, he did this. And it was because of his psyche. And like mansplains the entire plot of this
whole movie.
Amazing. Incredible. Yeah. A little new tidbit of information that he killed his mother and
Norman was jealous of his mother's lover, and he was the one that poisoned them both.
Yeah.
And then that murder that he committed was so hard on his brain that he then had to come up with his personality split, essentially, to cope with it.
Who I talked to back there wasn't Norman, it was Mother.
Yes.
And by what I mean by this is that there's two people living among.
And now the mother half has fully taken over. And Norman is no more.
So Norman wasn't who killed those people. It was Mother.
Yeah.
Norman, he was like doing a lot of, Norman did kill her. But he also didn't.
It's complicated because there's two people.
Norman is Norman.
It's quite
but he's also never Norman.
Yeah. Para-Norman, if you will. And like, it's a bad scene to end a movie with, but luckily it's not the scene we end the movie with.
Very true.
Yeah.
Very
true.
lucky. Because the movie then, after all this explanation, goes on to Norman.
We end with Norman,
Yeah.
who is not Norman anymore.
Yeah.
There's this great shot of him and Mother
Mhm.
sitting in the jail cell. It's just him in a blanket and a blank cell wall. We get a little window there,
Mhm.
and Mother talking to him, pretty much blaming everything on Norman.
Mhm.
He is going to be locked up for all the crimes that he committed. They could never believe that it was me talking about the mother.
Mhm.
And I'm going to be the one to pay for the sins that my son committed, essentially.
Or she's saying the son is going to pay for her sins, but they'll never catch her.
Yeah.
And she's like, and by the end of it, he's like smiling, like, they'll never catch me.
Yeah.
But he's caught. And it's like this wild, like, trap. What is it they talked about? A trap of your own making, your own private
Yeah.
trap.
Deliberately
private trap.
step
Yeah.
into our own...
Yeah.
And it's
And
yeah.
this is how I realized that smile as the detective was leaving was the mother, because here we are hearing her,
Mhm.
and then it's the same creepy smile.
Yeah.
She also compares herself in this last monologue to... She's just one of his stuffed birds. That
Mhm.
looks like it could be intimidating,
Right.
but it's actually harmless.
Right.
So... And that is essentially what she is, because Norman is the predator.
Mhm.
Norman is the real thing that is killing things. And she is just almost just an image of that we all, for this entire movie, have held over her. We thought she was the killer this whole time.
Mhm.
But in reality, she's just been one of his stuffed birds.
Yep.
Psycho!
Psycho!
Yay, I'm glad y'all saw for the first time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So cool.
really great.
Yeah.
So cool.
I also really like that it was set in Arizona.
Yep. Little hometown pride there for you.
yeah.
California.
Started in Arizona.
Starting there.
Somewhere in
It was
between.
in areas that I knew.
I like immediately when they said Phoenix, Arizona, I was like, I know everything about these characters.
I get it.
I mean, I immediately know.
I lived
get
it.
Yep.
I've lived this before.
Mhm.
So let us get to some Smash Pumpkins.
Smash Pumpkins!
Pumpkin. So let's start with you, Adam.
Mhm.
I'm very curious to hear your thoughts on this.
Mm-hmm. Great movie.
Great.
Really good movie.
Cool.
Loved that movie.
Cool.
We'll see this movie?
How many pumpkins are there? There's 5 of them, right?
Uh-oh.
I think I'll give them 5 pumpkins.
Whoa!
5 smashed pumpkins.
Mhm.
I know during the 30 days, we definitely didn't give out as many 5s.
Yeah.
But like, gosh dang it. I've seen some good movies here. And like, wow, what a good movie. I'd recommend this movie.
Mm.
Great twist. I would want to see it again just to be like, oh, that's what's going on. Really cool images that'll stick with you, you know? Like we were talking about in The Girl Walks Home Alone at Night.
Mm-hmm.
Lots of great images that'll just like when you watch the movie again, you're like, oh yeah, oh wow. Like that's going to be amazing. And wow. The way it builds, it never stops building. It's fantastic. And like in The Birds, there was a couple moments where it stopped building. And this movie, even though there is like this huge change of protagonist, it keeps building from there. And it's exciting. And there's like a moment where it's a new protagonist, that character dies. And then another, like more protagonists. And it's fun. And then the reveal happens at the end. Fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
5 Smash Pumpkins.
5
Very
Five
cool.
of them.
5 bad pumpkins.
Bum, 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 bum.
Lenny?
Also 5.
Also 5.
Wow!
Another 5, huh?
What?
Another 5.
Leslie loves every movie that we
Leslie.
Oh my god.
Not all of them, but I have very much enjoyed a lot of the movies that we've chosen so far, so
We gotta
that's
stop
pretty
picking
great.
out bangers.
No.
I
yes.
know.
Yes.
I like this movie also for the sense of the story and how it's just... I mean, there's a reason why it's so iconic. And it feels of its time, but in a way also the story and how it's shot transcends, and it still holds up. And I think that's why we see it as one of the movies that we can talk about, in film.
Mhm.
And it's
When I watch this movie,
fantastic.
every time, and especially I think the first time I watched it was in high school, so I was even still like a little bit older to like start, actually taking in what movies are talking about. I was surprised at how modern it feels.
Yeah.
It feels
Mhm.
like he
Yep.
was really pushing not only the horror genre but also film, just in
Mhm.
general in this movie. Because every time I watch it, I'm surprised at things that he's doing for the time. And it just feels like a timeless movie in that way of like, wow, this is still different. This
Yeah.
is still like, the
It's
storytelling is different. The cinematography is different. It just feels like it is one of these movies that will just transcend the time that it'll make forever.
Mhm.
Well, also, he exclusively sometimes uses shots that won't make a person look pretty or the shot pretty.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's just pretty freaking cool, and
He,
just using that kind of spatial.
and I say it all the time. Any movie that is intentional, I really like, and he is an intentional filmmaker. He's not gonna put a shot in there for no reason.
Mhm.
Right.
He has a reason for every single shot. Every close up that we see is intentional, and well, I guess I gotta give it a 5 too.
Whoa!
What else to do?
Wow!
I don't know what else
I don't know what else.
I don't know what else.
I think it is. It's coming to that time now where we get to see what's in store for next week. Adam, you're good at picking these. So
All right, yeah.
let's see what you got. Really get in there. Really get in there.
Oh, is it this one? No, it's not that one.
I did
What do you
add a
think I
couple this morning. Neon Demon,
Hell yeah.
Brimstone,
did? Wow.
some others.
Yeah.
There's things in there. There's good
Oh,
movies.
this
in
is the one.
Okay.
I know,
Okay.
I know this.
there.
All right.
So for drama's sake, why don't you read the
Log
log line
line.
first?
Mhm.
Ah.
See if we can get it,
Okay.
and then read the title.
The residents of a suburban high-rise apartment building are being infected
Ooh,
by
I
a
know.
strain of parasites that
Mhm.
turn them into mindless, sex-crazed fiends out to infect others by the slightest sexual context. Written, directed. Is that the next one?
I think you're.
It is
looking at
a
written.
David Cronenberg film.
Oh boy.
Written and directed by David Cronenberg.
Of course.
1975.
I think it's. Wait. Let me. Hold on. I
Can
know what it is.
Yeah.
But
Of course, you put it in there.
I know, but I've never seen it before. And it is one that was suggested to me. I'm just trying to remember the name.
Sex. That's all I heard.
It's like a.
You stopped there?
It's almost like
Yes.
zombie sex fiends or something.
A strain of parasites that turn them into mindless, sex-crazed fiends out to infect others.
Because I was gonna first suggest Suspiria, but it's not.
It is an S word.
It is an S word.
Sa-
I know.
Celebrate.
Good times come on.
All right, what are we watching?
Shivers.
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 Ooh.
1975. David Cronenberg.
I've
You
never
know how
heard
we love Cronenberg.
I love him.
He's great.
I do. I do
He's
love
great
him.
stuff.
I've
Ah.
never seen this one.
Right.
The last Cronenberg movie we watched was The Fly,
Mhm.
of course.
Mhm.
Which
Oh, that's
Love
why you're.
yeah, perfect.
Yeah.
So this is gonna be one that neither of us have seen
No.
before.
Wow.
I don't think I've ever even heard of it.
That's even better.
That'd be great.
That's cool.
Know nothing about it.
No, nothing.
No, nothing about
Besides,
it.
no matter.
besides their sex.
Besides their sex and parasites. Cool.
Yeah.
Great.
Well, Adam,
It follows.
thank you for coming back. You're
Absolutely.
always welcome.
Mhm.
Thank you. Thank you
Please
for having
Yeah.
me.
plug yourself.
Oh, well, you should check out. I think we'll be coming back by around the time that you guys are dropping your episodes.
Cool.
So that's fun.
What do you
check out
mean? We're already
Season 3, Episode 4.
So check it out.
yeah, check
Check
that
it
one
out.
out.
It's a
Yeah.
podcast.
Yeah,
You
it's
can
a
find it
fun
on Instagram. You can find it on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you find podcasts. Just check it out. Thank you.
Check it out. Check me out at Instagram. Color me Leslie.
And also, you can find me at Beep Beep Richie T, and also the Deadlights Pod. That's us on Instagram. And
Check it out.
check it out. And
Ah.
also Playground Social, which is the studio that we are recording this at. But until
We are.
next time,
Let
Let
us
us-
get spooky, y'all.
Yo!